Good evening, Dodge. How are we going?
Hey, Steph.
How are you, mate?
It's funny though, watching that video and seeing where you guys are at now. It kind of feels like you shot it just an hour ago, doesn't it?
That's what we did just then. Yeah, live video.
That's it, man. Fantastic. Good to have you guys on.
Thanks for having us, Steph.
Finally, I was about to say, I've been talking to Craig for too long now, so maybe you should just go home so we can have a look at the beautiful drum kits in the background.
Can you see the drums? Oh, I can't give away the drums.
Oh, sorry, mate. I'll move on the way.
So every time I walk in this room, there's a different drum kit there.
I could imagine, man. How have you been?
Good, mate. Yourself? How you been?
Can't complain.
That's a new house and everything. Good.
I know. It's too cold at the moment. I'm not enjoying this Perth winter.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, isn't it?
Oh, you got the beanie and the headphones to cover the ears, mate. It'll be.
Oh no! It's simply just to keep myself warm. It's just like Danish summer, you know. It's But enough about me. What have you guys been up to? You've been shooting music videos and recording and done a lot of content. You've done a website even since the last time I spoke to Craig, and merchandise, and wow, I don't even know where to start.
Mate,
so,
world tour next week.
Starting in Dutch.
No, we're just trying to.
Yeah, a full Dutch tour.
Yeah, that's right. So, one suburb at a time.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. Step up the professionalism a little bit. We're just trying to,
Good stuff. Well, probably just to we can obviously start off with the first video you've done, which is the one we just saw, pictures of better days.
Yep.
What happened there, and how did that one come up? Because obviously, you've shot it at Sam's studio.
That's right.
Yeah, so we shot it here, and a lot of people think it's a live video, and so we're telling people that that's what it is. As in, we played and everything.
Let's keep that illusion alive, shall we?
Completely live in my studio. Everything is all done here, completely one shot.
Yep.
Yeah, but we were thinking about what can we do for a video, and so we got all these ideas and everything like that. And I think everyone was just around here for. What were we around here for? For photos, that's right. Yeah, and I said, well, while we're all here, we might as well do a video. And so that's what happened. That's what came out.
Why not?
So that's the perks of having your own studio, I suppose, is you get to just do things like that. And cameras and stuff lying around everywhere and lights and all that sort of thing. So
plus he's multi-talented. He can do cameras, he can play drums, he can do editing.
I enjoy doing all that stuff, yeah. So, I enjoy editing. For some reason, I really like editing video. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, so we were just around here and we just threw that together. Actually, that was the second one we did. The first one we didn't like our wardrobe.
Oh, really?
We're like, maybe we shouldn't wear that shirt next time. So it was a bit of a run through the first one, and then I thought, that's good enough. It's a good enough idea. So let's all come back and we'll do it properly. And it turned out good.
I think
so now you got me all curious. Like, what were you wearing in the first one?
It was pretty much because the shirt I was wearing was showing up my man boobs. Man boobs were starting to show too much, so I've got to wear black now forever, or else the man boobs start just getting a bit big now. So.
I don't.
So now it's actually I don't know what it was the first.
I don't know.
But we had a change anyway, and
we watched it and we thought, we can do it better, and so. Yeah, if ever, or all of us, if ever anyone thinks, we can do it better, then we'll go do it again. So
that's right.
So
I was just about to say, I don't know if you did a sort of a topless video with Craig, I don't know if that would get you more or less fans.
You just never know, mate. You just never know.
Yeah, I'd lean towards less.
I think that would be the case too. So, but there's only one way to find out, I guess.
No. You ain't finding that out, that's for sure. Right? No.
Hashtag challenge accepted. So,
and that was kind of the video that got the ball rolling, I suppose. And then we Duncan's really good with all the social media kind of businessy sort of side of things, and so I'm good at pointing cameras and stuff. So and Craig's good at writing songs. So it kind of works. Like it's all sort of come together really well.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it sounds like it's full circle.
Yeah, and I got no idea about like when to put content up and how you do it and all of that. Like I was talking to you about it, and like kind of that was an eye opener how little I know about all of that stuff. And I'm happy to not know about that stuff as long as someone else does. So
exactly, yeah, that's a key thing. As long as someone is doing it, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I think Duncan's really good at that stuff as far as, okay, we need a video by this time, we need to release a single by this time, and blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, oh, good, I don't have to think of that. I can just sit in front of my computer and chop up video clips and stuff. And
that's it. But you just we're kind of learning as we go along as well. You know, you're watching YouTube videos and saying, okay, the most important thing is you got to have a clip up, you know, every 2 days or something, and you got to say something. And it's not really what I love doing, but I must admit it's definitely working because we've started to get a bit more traction on the videos and the posts that we put up. So, maybe that's what we have to do.
Yeah, well, that again, it usually comes with consistency because you keep putting stuff out.
That's it, man.
So that again, if you have a following, they will stay followers because there's constantly something coming out.
Yeah, I think whenever the three of us get together, we're just doing a little acoustic thing in there now, and I just can't watch it when people put an iPhone up in the corner and they go, "Hey guys, my new video." And it's like nothing against anybody, but I know personally I can't.
Yeah.
I can't handle it, and so it's like, okay, well, let's do it properly. So we kind of just all sat in there and playing guitars, and I got a new piano, so I was itching to get Craig over to play it so I could record it and everything. So
beautiful piano.
So we're putting together something now, like just to get more content out and a bit of a different version of what's on the record. So
it's obviously quite fortunate that you are in that position to have this beautiful professional studio and be able to do that. And I do agree. As much as an iPhone content is better than no content, then it gets a bit sort of tedious when you watch sort of too many with crappy audio and video and stuff. So very exciting.
As you probably know, it's not that hard to get quality audio nowadays. It's just a little bit of an investment. Like you don't have to go stupid. You can. Yeah, anyway, but as being a drummer, like I see drummers putting up stuff with an iPhone sitting there, and it's like, like, hey, who's going to watch this? How can you even watch it? But anyway, I won't get on my high horse.
Get all tech savvy there.
Yeah. You didn't even get me going. I just brought that up myself.
Well, you kind of put it to rest yourself as well. So,
that's what we were doing there before when you called us. They were just in there having a play and get some more content out.
Well, actually, sort of like without going sort of too much into more tech stuff, I'm a bit curious to hear about the actual recording because you recorded the drums. As far as I'm aware, you recorded the drums in like right there.
Yeah,
right there.
So I'm curious to hear.
Let me just get
it.
Sticky drum kit. I'll just get it.
That
look at that.
It was used on the album though. There was another couple of different ones.
But that's like, look at the lighting and stuff. Actually, Craig, can you just stay there for the rest of the time?
It's got a nerve knees, mate. Maybe you want to interview the drum kit.
Yeah. I've got a feeling it'd be a quite short interview, but it's very beautiful. And the lighting and everything, it's so pretty.
The gold and stuff like this. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So how did that go?
Yeah, it was good. Like,
tell us a bit.
Well, the best thing about Craig is he sends really good demos. So the demos were pretty much what ended up on the album. So, excuse me. So, yeah, he'd actually send through demos that had drums, and instead of it just being rock beat number one, he'd actually put a little bit of effort into getting the kick drum patterns, what he wanted, or thereabouts and similar. And he wrote really good detailed notes as well. So it was pretty easy, actually. It was one of the easier things I've ever done. Because I get some stuff where they go, yeah, man, I need some drums. And then they just send you something without any drums on it or, without any drum machine. And then you put, as your sensibilities as a drummer, you play what a drummer would play and you send it back to them. And sometimes they're like, oh, nah. But they don't know what they want, So it was really easy because And Craig's really easy to work with as well.
Sometimes.
Yeah. But the thing is I got all the drums before I'd even met Duncan. I think like I'd met, because the bass went down after the drums went down. So I'd played all the drums, and I think it must have been, there was either no bass on them or there was Craig playing bass on them.
Yeah, I think it was at the beginning. Then Duncan came in and did the professional lines and stuff. And
yeah, so that was interesting actually, playing to something that wasn't the final track. Because I've done a lot of, actually most of my stuff I do drums, and that's the end, that's the last thing, because it's easier to play bass at home and put your guitar down at home and everything. And then what people usually do if they want real drums on is they'll go hire a studio and they'll hire a drummer and they'll spend all day getting sounds, and then the next day they'll track or whatever. But that's what this whole thing was set up for, was that people could just send me stuff that they tracked at home and I could put live drums on it. So and usually turn it over pretty quick. If I'm not being lazy, I'll kind of try and turn them over in 24 hours or so. And,
mate, sometimes I would send a file over, and like maybe at 10 in the morning, and at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something, I've got this complete drum track all finished, done, perfect. I was just like, man, I don't know how he did it, but he's.
Well, the kids must have been at school that day. I'd say the kids were probably at grandma and granddad's that day or something. But
that's awesome.
It was amazing.
But so how was it for you to just play along? Like, did you just copy the original drums, or did you sort of try and put your own little spin on some of the tunes?
I tried to stick pretty much to what was on there. I think a few changes. A few little changes or whatever, but usually it'd be Craig that would be suggesting them. Like, I think with myself, I don't want to go in there and just be like, oh, here, check out all my stuff, like I'm a shit hot drummer and check this out. Like, I think, well, if he's written a song to a particular drum beat, then I'm going to try and stick to it, I'm going to, but take away that machine kind of element and give it some dynamics and give it some attack, I think that's what you miss with program drums, is you miss that attack, like same as playing an acoustic piano, you miss that attack when you're using plugins and digital stuff, I reckon. So
it's very true. I mean, I remember Craig and I were sort of doing some things together, and I was hearing some of these demos with the drums, and like I say, Craig is great at programming and getting what he wants. But as soon as he sort of sent them off to Sam and we got the files back, and Sam was just like immediate difference. It just sounded like a real drummer, real sounds and feel. Right, actually just took it to another level. So it really made a big difference.
Yeah.
And I play everything to a click, but I don't ever grid anything, and I don't. Sometimes I'll drop in a fill that I like that I did somewhere else or whatever, and I'll edit that in or whatever. But I don't get in there and I go, oh shit, I got to move that bass drum a millisecond and all that sort of stuff. So, but the interesting part about that was when Craig sent it all off to get mixed by Thomas, I think he might have been a little bit used to that, being gridded and everything, and instead of having like real live drum sounds, I think he was used to having samples and stuff at least like underneath it, or at least sent over there with it as well. So
it took the guy that we got to mix the album. It's a guy, we sent all the stems off to this guy Thomas in Sweden. I think I'm telling you that before.
Yep.
But I thought he was great, but at first it took him a little while to just get the feel of what Sam had played. He wasn't bringing out the hi-hats or the crashes as much as we probably heard it in the songs, and so there was a little bit of to and fro in when we started, and then I think he got it towards the end. I think he was
absolutely. Now that I listen back to it, it's like, oh, you did a perfect job. I'm really happy with how the drums sound and the performances, and but you can't do much if it's a dud song. Like that's I reckon that's my underlying thing. It's if it's a stupid song, then doesn't you could have Vinnie Colaiuta playing drums on it and it won't matter. Like to me anyway. So that's kind of. I think my thing is just try to keep out of the way and not. I think I got one good fill in there that I listened to it back and I'm like, oh, Craig, get that fill in. And I think it's in Into the Great.
And I just keep playing that one over and over again.
And I think I might have just chucked it in there at the end just because I knew it was going to fade out or whatever. Right. And then when I heard it back, I'm like, oh, you put that in.
Yeah, nice.
So, Yeah, so that was all right.
Yeah. There's a good old saying: you can't polish a turd. So it's
But it was
yeah.
because I set up this room and I thought I'd done a really good job, and then it was kind of like when I was listening, or some of the notes back from Thomas, he's like, oh, the room microphone doesn't sound great, or it's a little bit dirty and grungy, and it was good to hear from a guy of that caliber who's like won Grammys and all that, Latin Grammys and all that sort of stuff. I've never really worked with anyone at that kind of caliber that will tell you straight, hey, your room mic sounds like shit. So it booted me to kind of upgrade a couple of microphones and stuff like that. So it was good in the long run. It was
so, but did he give you any sort of feedback to what needs to be fixed instead of just saying that it sounded like shit? Like, did he tell you why, or give you ideas to how to fix it?
I think the fix would be go spend 10 grand on a room mic.
Okay.
I think that was kind of the fix to it. And instead of and go spend 500 grand on a room instead of 100 grand or whatever, So
because Thomas was used to. He was mixing the big boys, and he was used to getting all the stuff from the Abbey Road and stuff, these kind of studios. But the beautiful thing was he was prepared to give us guys, the independent, the lower guys, a bit of a go. And to be fair, I was really impressed by how much he ended up costing, because I thought we'd be up for thousands and thousands of dollars, but we got away with it quite cheaply.
I think that was one of the things why I wanted to build a studio as well, is because I've recorded before and never really been happy with the drum sound, So you think, well, I don't know, I'll read up about it and do some experimenting and buy some gear, and it's not like I just came in and built this place. Like, it's been going for like 15 years kind of thing, collecting gear and upgrading gear and everything like that, and then finally the room was kind of the last piece. But yeah, it was nice being able to send you tracks and being confident that they were in time and that they sounded good. And they might have been a little bit rougher than what he was kind of used to. But
the only bad part was the time that they used to come in. I'd send something to Duncan about 1 o'clock in the morning. What do you reckon of Thomas's new mix?
Because of the time difference.
Duncan's wife must have been lying there, like at 1:30 in the morning. Ding, 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 ding. Who the hell was that? Oh, Thomas must have sent a new mix from Sweden.
Yeah, all my notifications are muted, so...
It's probably a good idea.
And it's good being able to work on an album. Like, I don't know who does albums anymore, but I don't know about you guys, but anything that I get sent, it's always just one off, and it'll go up on Spotify or whatever, and then you go on to the next song or whatever. It was really good to be able to get a collection of, at one point Craig was kind of sending 2 and 3 songs at a time, and it was good to hear the theme going through the album, and it was good to go, okay, well, that's what I did on that song, so I'll try something a little bit different. I'll try a different ride cymbal, a different snare drum, or something like that.
Yeah.
It was good to have an album. It was like, it just doesn't really happen anymore,
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear a bit more about the sort of like the initial process, because obviously I've had Craig on a couple of times, and we've been talking about how this all started as like a New Year's resolution a couple of years, or like it was a year and a half ago or something. Yeah. I think Craig mentioned at some stage that, he started this out like you were playing a gig somewhere and you just decided, I'm gonna make an album this year, and then it sort of developed from there, and now you're sitting here and you got a full band, you've got a Grammy-winning producer and stuff. So how did that New Year's resolution turn into the 3 guys that are in the room right now?
Well, to be honest, it's this guy that really, because Duncan, he contacted me before we even wanted to do the album and stuff like that, and the idea was just to get together and write some originals together, and we did that. And then after a while, I thought, well, I've got a bunch of originals here that are written that had a theme to it, and would be good as an album, so like from start to finish. And Duncan came around and he laid all the bass lines down at my place, which
Actually, most of them are done here.
Yeah, but at first,
Oh, right, yeah.
at first you did them all down at mine, and they weren't good enough. So I didn't. No, not because you didn't play them good enough. But you played them great, but it was my little interface just didn't give the sound.
Oh, okay.
Then we came up to Sam's, and he put them down again and did it properly. And yeah, that was.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was. It's about 3 years ago that I tracked down Craig. I mean, I've known Craig. We've known each other in the industry for years, right? But we probably didn't really know each other that well. But about 3 years ago, I sort of wanted to get back into playing bass again because I've been doing a lot of solo acoustic stuff, and I kind of really wanted to get back into doing originals. And I was sort of thinking, who would I do? I felt like I needed help with that, and who would I do it with? And Craig had always been on my mind as to someone, that potentially we were on the same wavelength. Not that I actually ever heard of any Craig stuff, but I just kind of sensed that we were on a similar wavelength. So, as you do, I sort of started doing some investigating and came across the first 46 Brigade album, which obviously you were a big part of, Steph, and I loved it. And I sort of go, this is really where I'm coming from. So I called Craig and sort of said, look, basically I'm really keen to do some things, do some writing. And so we sort of started doing that together, and we're kind of working almost in parallel, on each other's stuff. Like I'd bring a song and he'd sort of help me a bit with that, and he'd show me some of his stuff. And then we sort of started playing a bit more together, and eventually we sort of said, why don't we just bring this together, right? And Craig's, I've got this album, and this is as you know, is a particularly special album for Craig with something that he had to do. And I said, okay, let's do this, let's get this album done, and I'll sort of come and do that, and then we'll come back to some other stuff a bit later on. And so that's really how it came together. So I sort of started playing on this. Sam had got the tracks play drums on originally just as the session guy to sort of put on the drum tracks, but did such a great job, and we all worked so well together. We all just slowly started migrating together and going, this works, and we really enjoy it.
That's awesome.
I still remember I was standing in this room and I got a call and I'm like, who's this? And it's Craig, and I hadn't even met him. I hadn't even met Craig, and I think I played on I think I'd done some stuff for Matt Milford, who was in 46 Brigade, and I think I played on a Christmas carol that they'd written about Santa Claus being cool or something, and and again, same thing, they just sent me the track and I played it and everything and sent it off and didn't really think much more of it, and then Craig rang and said, Matt recommended maybe that we could get some drums done here, so it was good. It was just one of those calls that you kind of don't really expect. And I'd known of Craig, like I'd seen him around playing in Gunshy, Romeo's, and in that kind of scene, because we're all in doing covers and stuff. So and I jumped at it. I was like, don't worry about paying me. Don't worry about like we'll work all that stuff out later. Just send me the stuff because I just want to play drums on people's albums and tracks, and so.
So if anyone out there is listening,
free drums.
No,
that's cool.
It was good. It worked out really good. So,
awesome. Well, look.
And again, it's not like there's any. Well, there is massive overhead, but I'm not paying rent or anything like that. So so it's not going to cost people tens of thousands of dollars to get drums on their albums. So it's worked out good for everyone, I think.
I reckon if there's any musos listening there, come and get Sam to do the drums.
Why not?
You'll be happy.
I'm not doing much.
It's not free, but it's not 10,000 either. So
somewhere between 3 and 10 grand.
Somewhere in between. But look, like obviously, like the album came out sensational. I think that when I had Craig on the last time, I was pretty excited about talking about it, because it's come out phenomenal. What has sort of like the feedback you received so far from the album? How has that been?
Well, the feedback I've had has been excellent. I think people are enjoying the songs, are enjoying the quality, they're enjoying the production. I mean, I think the production in the end, a combination of the studios and the sounds, and then obviously also what Thomas has done, has really made it sound great and fits in really well with what else is out there today. So the feedback's been really positive.
I think personally it's one of these albums that you can put on even if you're going for a drive or if you're doing a bit of painting in the house, and you can let it run from start to finish. And I'm not just saying it because we did it, but I actually think that genuinely you quite enjoy just listening to that album as you do, your everyday stuff. So
I've got some really hard markers in my life. Like my older brother's 4 years older than me, and he's a musician as well, and he's brutally honest. So I'll send him something that I played on or whatever, and he'll just straight away he's like, shit, and so that's when I'll know it's good if I play it to him, and he's like, oh, you know what, this is actually really good. And he said that about everything, and we've got him involved a little bit, like with running around with the camera and everything, but yeah, he's brutally honest. And so I think if I think something is good enough to show him, then I think it's good, and then if he says it's good, then I know it is. So yeah, what did he say? He wrote me a message the other day, and he said, oh, it sounds like it should be on FM radio. Oh, I forget what the actual message was, but it was really complimentary. Like it was like it's as good as anything that's on FM radio at the moment, or something like that. So yeah, so I thought, oh, okay, well that's good.
Very difficult to get it on FM radio.
And my mum and dad love it, so.
Oh, that's nice.
Dad are meant to love everything you do, but not mine. Mine are like, But yeah, my dad loves it. Dad wants to. They're in New South Wales, and they want to come over and watch the band and all that. So, cool. Yeah, I think something's good if you're sharing it and you're putting it up, and because not all the time you're not always putting it out there. You might just play drums, or you might play bass or something on something, and then you go, okay, well that's their thing, and you leave it, and you don't really invest anything of yourself in it. And so I think the fact that Duncan and I have kind of come on board and gone, yeah, we want to be part of it, then I think that sort of speaks for the quality of the songs, I reckon. Like, totally. But I knew that when I heard the demos, I was like, oh god, this is actually really good. Like. Because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff, and nothing against, I'm not saying that everything I do is crap, because it's not. It's really good, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, oh, this is actually really good, and I can kind of not just play drums and go, here you go, and not think about it ever again, So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, no, it's I agree. It was sort of kind of the same feeling I had about 8 years ago when I heard the first demos, the first kind of songs that we did for the first album as well. It's like Craig is a really, really good songwriter, and sort of how like his melodies are so catchy. Like when I heard the first, I think it was Free Me, that was sort of like the first song that you put up. I heard that song once, and it was like stuck with me for a week. And that's rare. Like I don't hear any songs on the radio at the moment that sort of does that to me. If they do, it's one of those really, really annoying songs that you wish got out of your head.
What's the one that's on at the moment? I mean, because one thing that I tried to do with this album was lyrically try and make it a bit interesting. But there's one song that was hitting the chart at the moment. Was it Pump It Up or Pump It? Like something like that, but that's the only line in the whole world. Pump it like a pump it, or whatever. Yeah, it's just like, yeah. So but that sticks in your head.
We have I don't know if you guys have watched. It's on Netflix at the moment. The new Will Ferrell movie called Eurovision, the story about Fire Saga.
Yeah, Ding Dong.
Yeah, Ding Dong. Yeah, that. That song is on repeat non-stop at home because that's all the kids want to hear. They said, "Put Yaya Ding Dong on," and they sort of dance around. It's like it's still a catchy song, but it's like, yeah, enough now.
I think in the same breath, he's saying, how's it been received and everything, and I think it's just amazing that anyone will comment and say, hey guys, and there's been some really nice comments like from people on Facebook, hey guys, love the song, love the video, and like people actually go into a bit of depth about why they like it, and maybe it means something to them as well or whatever. And I think for anybody in this kind of society that we're in, without getting too deep, that if anyone takes the time to actually tell you what they like about it, then it's a win. And like, you might not be selling millions of albums because no one's selling millions of albums anymore, and you might not be getting millions of streams or whatever, but sometimes it might just be that little you know, some person that you don't
a little
even
comment
know.
that picks you up.
Yeah, and there's been lots of that sort of stuff. Like I look at it all, I'm like, wow, you know, people taking the time to comment, and you know, because people take the time to comment to tell you if it's shit, and they'll say that, oh, this is shit, and then that's it, and they'll troll you or whatever. But yeah, for people to actually put up a genuine comment, it's pretty.
Yeah, I was actually blown away by the amount of shares that this latest video has already got. You know, people sharing it and, you know, listening to it and streaming it and whatever. And that kind of thing is like it's gold, because where else can you get people to listen to it these days? You can't get it on FM radio pretty much, and so social media is the outlet. And, you know, if they're taking the time to do that, then wow, that's it means a lot. You know?
Well, sort of talking about sort of social media and FM radio for that sake, in regards to sort of like you're promoting, or you sort of getting the album or yourself's name out there. What sort of plans have you got in place for that? You mentioned previously that Duncan was sort of like the main marketer at the moment, but have you got a plan? Have you got something specific you wanna try and achieve over the next couple of months?
Well, I think we've been watching a few, like I was saying earlier, we've been watching a few videos and, you know, just getting ideas from other people on how to go about it. And I think the general consensus is, apart from putting as much as you can on without bugging people all the time, start lowly, you know. So if we try and get it onto some community radio stations, maybe go out and do some busking or whatever, you know, just keep it kind of at grassroots level, and let's try and see if we can build it. That's kind of, I think that's the strategy behind it. But now we're talking, I think Duncan was saying the other day, maybe try to do some sponsored ads on Facebook, which might reach a bigger audience. Maybe that might be the next step. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I guess we're just feeling it, you know, to a degree. You know, we're learning as we go with this, you know, with the social media. I am certainly not the expert. I just sort of throw some ideas around. Craig does most of the grunt work by far. But it's just, you know, it's like anything. It's just having a bit of a strategy, trying to put a bit of a strategy around it, and, you know, formulate a bit of a strategy. And there is a lot to it. You know, I was talking to someone today about that, and you know, it's not just recording a song and putting it out. You know, there's all of that and making sure that's good, and there's the videos, but then, you know, it's understanding the Spotifys and the platforms, and, you know, you can only best release a single, which is why we've been doing it that way. Right. And when you're releasing a single, you know, the build up beforehand, the build up afterwards, and then, you know, there's the contacting the radio stations and trying to get it on those sorts of things. There's a lot of stuff you can do, so you can really understand why there is professional management companies, or, you know, what role a record company could play or have played in the past in those sort of marketing departments. So there is a lot to do. We just try and feel our way through that as best we can, you know, being amateurs at that side of it.
Yeah. And what about sort of, is there any sort of gigs lined up to sort of try and back up the album as well? Have you looked into that?
Yeah, we're trying. I contacted a couple of venues because we want to do an album launch, obviously, as soon as we can. And because of the COVID thing at the moment, some of the venues are still restricted. So the place that we wanted to go, I think it was limited to like a 30-person capacity. But now that stage 4 is on, I think they can get 100 in there. And I reckon a smaller place with a half decent crowd in there would be a good place to do a CD launch. And so yeah,
September. I think we're sort of thinking September is what we're targeting to do. Yeah. So we'll probably have another single out, and then be ready to do some live shows in September.
Yeah.
And part of the reasoning behind that as well is just that it would be great to, when we actually go and play live as an original band, you know, there'll be some songs that are familiar to people as well.
That's right.
For sure. And that's probably, again, you know, how you were mentioning earlier about, you know, maybe getting a couple of sponsored ads out as well, or like doing some specific targeted tracks might work out as well, because that way you'd be able to push it out to your potential audience and or people that would actually go to the show. Interesting for sure. But so in regards to sort of like the overall band format, roughly how much time do you sort of devote into band activities sort of during the day or during the week?
Well, it didn't used to be a whole lot, but it's kind of ramped up a little bit recently with all the video stuff we've been doing. And, we're spending a lot more time, even just we were in there just earlier trying to do like a little acoustic version of the new single that we've got out. And so all these little things when we can get together, but, everyone's got busy lives, so.
The group chat's out of control.
Yes.
But even 10 years ago, you couldn't be in touch with people like that, so being able to bounce ideas around and it's like, hey, I've got a new idea, or this is the, we're looking at locations, like just being able to send a photo to everyone on the group chat. I don't know how we ever did it before then, so in that regard, it's actually a lot easier to get this sort of stuff together and put the time aside to do it. So, yeah, I think, if you're trying to do this on your own 15 years ago or 20 years ago, you'd have to get camera crews together and scout locations and all that sort of stuff. But being where we're at now is the three of us go out and we can shoot a video pretty much with the help of one other person and bring it home and have it out.
Well, bring it home, and maybe not bring it home because sometimes it gets stolen. The gear got stolen.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But like turn over a video in 2 days, 3 days, because I know we shot that video on Monday and it was out on Saturday, I think. So, and we lost the day pretty much because my camera got stolen. So.
Yeah, and now I have to hear that whole story because I saw that on Facebook and you got to let me know how did that pan out? Can you just run through that day from sort of when you got there till finish?
So we're at City Farm in Perth, so it's in East Perth there, and so you got to drive in there. It's like a compound, so you drive in there, you lock the gates behind you and everything, and so you think, yeah, it's pretty safe there. I think I had my wallet on the front seat, and I know my brother helped us out with the video, my older brother I was talking about, and he left his wallet on the seat and everything like that. You just don't think. You think, well, all the gates and everything are locked. So anyway, we're probably about 4 hours, 5 hours shooting the video, and Duncan and I were standing outside just talking in the car, and Duncan's like, oh, there's some guys over there, and I'm like, and he's like, yeah, no, definitely is, and so he went over there, and where were they?
Yeah, well, I sort of saw some behind the bushes, and I sort of wandered over there, and it was kind of looked like I was near the car, but there wasn't anyone when I got there. But then I sort of looked in the distance. I could sort of see 2 or 3 guys jumping the compound fence to get out.
Oh.
And sort of going, yeah, okay, that was a bit weird. Sort of because we're in there, presuming they weren't supposed to be there or whatever, and it was sort of mentioned it to Sam.
Yeah, and I just thought, yeah, maybe they were, I don't know. And so anyway, I got home and started unloading all my gear into the garage, and I was with my brother, and I said, hey, Ben, where's that camera? And he said, he was so specific, he said, it's on your front seat, and I put a sandbag in front of it so it didn't roll into the foot well or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, it's not there. And so I rang Duncan, I rang Craig, hey, is that camera on your front seat? No. And I thought, it's something really, it's so specific that you wouldn't, like if I was packing it, I'd say, oh yeah, it's in there somewhere, I chucked it in there somewhere, but he was so specific about where he put it, and I'm like, it's gone. So I rang Craig and I said, hey, we're going to have to go back to City Farm because not only is my camera missing, but the 5 hours of footage that we shot. So, and my brother went green and I was white. And I came in, and I'm usually fairly fiery, but I came in and I said to my wife, I think my camera's been stolen. I'm going to go back and have a look for it. And I think kind of on the way out, I was like, fuck off! Yeah. And then I kind of got myself together, went and got Craig, and we went back in. And so we got back in there, and so we're looking around everywhere. It's not there. And like Craig went, he opened up all the buildings again and undid the alarm code and everything like that. And I felt like an arsehole because it's like, I'm going to have to get these guys to come back and we're going to have to shoot it again and we're going to have to hire the place again.
But you know what? The funny thing is the whole way there, not one swear word. He wasn't pissed off or anything.
I
He
was
was
in
just
shock. I think I was in shock. I was like,
$4,000 camera.
Yeah. And then, I think when I got there, I realised there was a couple more things that I hadn't accounted for. So I was like, oh, it's actually more than what I thought it was money-wise that I'd lost. Anyway, so Craig had gone back. I said, it's not here. So I got my phone out and I started filling out a lost property report for the police station, to report it. And I even got on Gumtree to see if anyone had advertised that camera and Marketplace and everything like that. And but just as he was locking up, I thought, I'll go around and check around behind this hut, because there was a sandbag missing as well. And I thought, if I find the sandbag, then I'll know that the camera's been stolen, because I'll know that someone hasn't put it on the roof and we've driven off and the freeway, And I came around the corner and there's two black objects sitting in the garden. I'm like, oh, well, there's my camera bag and there's my sandbag. So I went around to get it. And I think Craig, I started yelling, Craig! Like, I think he thought that they'd come back and attack me or something. Like, he's like, and he comes running around and I'm like, it's here. So they've obviously thought it was a handbag or something like that and just dumped it in the bushes. So, it's $4,500, almost $5,000 worth of stuff in the bag. Like, just sitting there, like they'd gone through all the zippers and everything.
Wow.
It had fallen out into the thing. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, it's not like they were carrying a guitar or something huge that they'd have to kind of make away. Like, this is the sort of thing that you just tuck under your arm and off you go, and then sell at the pub the next day for $200 or something like that, But so I couldn't believe it. But it was great. The video got done.
So if the guys who actually stole it are listening, they'll be like, damn it.
I don't know if they're the sort of guys that listen to these kind of things.
Probably not, but maybe they should. There'll be some good tips and tricks here on how to value gear.
No, but I think now, and again, I think it's just so hard to get rid of this stuff now. Like, because
for sure.
I've got all the serial numbers and all that sort of stuff, and photos of it all. So it'd be pretty hard to say, that's not your camera. It's got the exact same serial number. So
maybe they saw some of the footage.
Maybe what the hell is this?
This is absolutely.
But I'm stoked. Like, not only finding the camera, but I'm like, oh, great, now I can start editing the video tomorrow. And so, and honestly, that was at the front of my mind. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to shoot this thing again, because, as you know, like, being on a video shoot, it's not like you walk in there and there's champagne on the table and everything's catered and there's some makeup ladies there and people with shutters and all that sort of crap. It's like 4 blokes in a warehouse running around like crazy doing everything themselves. So
you gotta you need a lot of airplay on FM radio to get to that stage.
Well, you could do that, but that's the thing I like about this band, is it's an indie. We're not the typical indie sort of guys. Like, I always think of indie dudes like, looking like they slept in their car or something. Like, we don't kind of look like that, but it's very much an indie project, like, as far as we do it all ourselves. So anyway, that's the story of the camera, and the lesson is, but I don't know what else we could have done, because we were standing, I reckon there was a 30-second window where one of us went inside or something, and then someone ducked in, grabbed it, and then took off. Like, it was honestly,
that's crazy, man.
And
I didn't realize you saw them jumping over the fence.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw them. I couldn't quite work exactly what I'd seen. I just thought, did I see someone come and jump the fence? Because we're in the compound. Because we'd seen someone come from the kitchen before, come and talk to us, and it was like.
But they were meant to be there. That was all right. But these guys obviously weren't. Anyway,
it's a good story though. Like.
I kind of.
And obviously, it had a bit of a happy ending.
Yeah. Well, the video
that's fantastic.
Great.
We'll be finishing off with it at some stage here when we're done chatting. We'll show it to people. And again, there's no Craig's man boobs on it, so it's completely family friendly.
Yeah. Do you know what? Do you know why there's no Craig's man boobs on that one? Because I borrowed my son's shirt and he likes double extra large ones. So, I didn't have the tight ones to just push the boobs out.
Got to do some more bench press.
Tighten them up a little bit. Tighten them up.
We're all at that sort of age where we've got to actually think about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, that might be that might be the concept for the next album, to do like a rockstar workout DVD or something.
Like a Richard Simmons kind of thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Remix everything with big dance beats.
There's plenty of options. Sky's the limit. It's all about content these days. So I've got another question here for you, and that's I don't know if it's a bit premature, because obviously if you haven't gigged after the album came out, but I'm sure you would still have rehearsed a bit. But my question is, what sort of songs are sort of like your favorite ones to play? I'm not talking about recording here. I'm talking about like when you are playing. Is there any songs that sort of stand out that are really cool? Where maybe, I don't know, maybe Sam can do a little bit of extra fills now it's not recorded, or Duncan get some more leads on the bass or something. But is there any songs that sort of stand out that said these ones are really cool? Has a good vibe to play.
We did a gig at the was it Bar 459? It was about 6 months ago.
It was
was
a while
it?
ago.
It
Yeah.
was quite a while ago, and it was basically like a little test. See how the songs went across,
Oh,
yeah. An open mic night. And out of that little set that we put together, I think we did 7 songs off the album. And me personally, I liked "Devil with a Silver Tongue." I just thought that was a kind of one that you can rock out to at the end. So, and "Roll on Monday" is my other one that I like playing live. So, yeah, that was
Are you good?
my ones.
Are you getting your daughter up to do some guest vocals live?
Yeah, I hope so. In actual fact, we're talking about that. I'd like to have her. We were saying we might have my daughter as the opening support, like the very first for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and then we'll maybe have another couple of acts, and then we'll go and do it. So, and
cool.
Yeah, she would love to do that. So, and then maybe later on we'll get her up to, because she sang on the album, and I think she did a great job for.
And I think based on where she's heading now at the moment with Grammy, not Grammy, but nominations for
the Wham song.
Yeah, it won't be too long until you guys are supporting her, I guess.
Yeah, mate. It's funny you should say that, because that's what she said to me when I asked her. She goes, "What do you mean I support you, Dad?"
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, that's good. Confidence. That's good.
Oh, yeah. That's maybe.
And what about you, Duncan and Sam? Have you got any favorites?
Oh, Devils is a great song to play live. But I mean, there's a couple on the album that we didn't play in that set, which I'm really looking forward to playing live. So. And Sorry is one of them. That is right up my alley in terms of how I play bass. So that one,
yeah.
And Grey Clouds is one of my favourites off the album as well. I love that album. I love that song. Song to the point where when Craig, because we were doing the album, and that song he'd actually sort of sent off, and he'd played bass on that particular song, right? And I'd recorded bass on all the other ones. And when I heard that, I liked that so much. I said, "Mate, I've got to play bass for this."
I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, man, do it."
We are re-recording that bass line.
Yeah.
So we actually haven't played that one live, but I'm really looking forward to playing that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm a sucker for 6/8 stuff, so I like Yesterday's Hero. And I remember when I first heard it, I was like, "Man, that's a great song." But as we were doing it, as we were getting the mixes back, I'm like, "Yeah, that's my favorite song on the album. Yeah, that's my." And it was like every time we got a new one back, I'd be like, "Yeah, that's my favorite song off the album." So, but yeah, and the little gig that we did, the little open mic thing, it was just good to see how that we would play all together, because it was the first time we'd ever played together, because everyone had been doing their different parts and everything. So, I think.
But you know what it's like, Steph. When we did we had the 3-piece, and we did when the first album came out, and it was yourself and me and Matt. The 3-piece is quite a challenge to actually make the songs sound as big as they are in the album. So hopefully when we go to do the CD launch, as chief schools of thought, we might add a couple of players onto it, or use the sequence backing in some of the songs just to help it, just become a bit more full. That's the answer.
I definitely got one of those, yeah. But yeah, and there's I don't reckon there's any problem with doing that either. You go see Justin Timberlake or Beyonce or anything.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
There's so much going on, and it's like there's no way they could ever replicate that live unless they've got some pre-recorded stuff. So
yeah.
And that, yeah, as you said, it's so common these days, and again, because the technology is available, I personally don't have an issue with it at all. I think if it's there, you should take advantage of it. It's like you were mentioning earlier about how you got the group chats. Now you got social media. You can look up all your skills on YouTube in regards to how to shoot a video or how to promote yourself and stuff. And that's the same as sort of doing stuff live. I would say as long as you've done it to begin with, as long as you record it and you can put it down on some tracks, and if that can make you sound better live, in my opinion, yeah, go for it, for sure.
Yeah, I think in the end, it does come down to the songs, right? And so they are great songs. But the beauty of this is we did, like say, 7 songs as the 3-piece, nothing else, just the 3 of us, and it sounded great.
It worked, yeah.
And Craig and I have played in another 3-piece together, and that's been part of our journey over the last couple of years, just sort of playing that feeling out and each other out. We've been playing in a 3-piece together with another mate of ours, Boris, and we kind of really learnt how we worked together and how to perform as a 3-piece, and I've been in other 3-pieces before, and so we can actually do the songs and we sound great.
Sometimes it is quite good to have them raw, just a bit. Yeah.
Craig and I have done duo gigs where he's playing acoustic and I'm playing bass and doing the songs, and they sound great in that format as well. You hear Craig pull out one of the songs, and as he's done, and you might hear what we're doing tonight. Before we tuned in, he can do a piano version of it, and it still sounds great. So we're open-minded to that sort of stuff, right? So we can do all those sort of formats, but we're also very open-minded and excited to the fact that another guitar would sound great, and do we bring another keyboard player? That would sound great too, or do we just use guitar and a sequence? I don't know. We're sort of open-minded with that. Whatever's going to kind of work, and the people that we bring in are going to work as well. That's really important.
So would that be someone you would bring in just as a session musician, or are you looking to maybe pick up a 4th member?
I think we're open-minded, I guess. Like for the moment, like this so far has been very organic, right? And as it's sort of talking about before, it's been very organic. We've just sort of come to migrated together, and we really enjoy each other's company, and we all have very high standards in our own way. Clearly Sam, we can see with his studio, and you can hear us with Craig and his songwriting, and Craig and his arrangements and those sort of things. He's very particular about that sort of stuff. But at the same token, we're all very easygoing as well. So we can sort of say, I like that, I don't like that, but no one will get offended, and we can sort of make it work. So it's really important that if someone comes into that, they can do that as well, because we've all been in bands where you sort of have someone come in, they might be the best guitarist in the world, but they make it hard and unfun and unenjoyable, and we don't want that, right? So if someone sort of comes in and it works and it goes that way, fantastic. If not, it may just be very well the 3 of us, and we'll bring some people in just for the live shows.
Yeah.
I think if we add members, or we go down that path, for me, as long as because there's a lot of 2 guitar parts and there's a lot of keyboards and guitar. As long as we do them right, we've got 2 different parts and we actually learn the parts, and we don't just try and wing it. Do you know what I mean? So try and get it exactly as best as we can to replicate the songs and the album. That's what I like anyway.
Mm-hmm. But I suppose it was also like, I think Duncan mentioned that before, like sort of depending on sort of what format you are playing. Because again, if you are down at like an open mic night, then it might be cool, to play the songs raw, in a more sort of basic format. Yeah. And again, if you are sort of looking to, because I remember like when we were talking, I think that was the first time we had a chat, when you were sort of saying like your bucket list and your biggest dream is to go and play festivals, somewhere. Yeah. And that's obviously a very different production size. And again, you have pretty much limitless capabilities, you know, to in order to how you can make your sound. So again, if that was the case, I'm guessing, yeah, probably bringing in additional musicians would work there, or again having, you know, your good old mate Roland,
oh yeah,
with a couple of backing tracks on it.
Well, you mentioned that's the way they do it.
Yeah, and I'd probably do that anyway. You know, like I'm a big fan of having the rock, like just because there's a few loops and stuff like that, like little drum loops and stuff going on, and like I quite like the roll, like playing to a click or playing to something, because it's an argument buster. You know, you're not going to get off at the end of the night and go, oh, this song was too slow, this song was too fast. So I think no matter what, we'll have that element of it. But I think at the end of the day, you just want to get someone that you get along with. I think, like, because we all know a bunch of really good players and get on with a bunch of really good players. I think that's going to be the hardest thing, is actually picking someone, because we've all got some really good mates that can play, and they're all really good friends of ours, you know. So it's like, well, who do you pick? You've got, you know, I must know
the guy with the most money.
Yeah. Pick the guy with the studio.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually probably going to be harder than actually finding someone. It's like, well, who do we pick? There's 10 great guitarists that I know that are great guys. So.
I was about to say, do you know anyone who's on like commercial radio stations or something?
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I think now as well, in you know, in the way the industry is now, it's quite common. I've been looking around a lot and taking a lot of notice. It's quite common to have a core band now. You know, two or three members of the core band, and they're sort of, you know, the guys that write songs and produce the album, produce the music. But then you can take an expanded band with you if you want to, and go and do some bigger shows, right? But you know, there is a core element to the band, so you don't. It's not necessarily like the old days where you have to have 5 guys to be complete and be a band. You can be 3. And add and subtract as you need, depending on what the format is.
Absolutely.
I think that kind of work for us.
Yeah, it's like you watch Green Day or whatever, and it's the 3 guys, and they've always got an extra guitarist and a keyboard player and whatever else, you know. So, not that we're in that sort of league, but same.
Or you can go the exact opposite, and you could be Ed Sheeran and just do arena shows yourself.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Oh yeah, let's not talk about Ed Sheeran.
Great idea. Thought of it.
That's a great idea. Look,
but I got one of these look boxes.
Oh yeah, now look, don't do that. But look, I'm curious again, just to go back to that festival thing as well, because I would love to sort of see that pan out one day. Have you guys got sort of anything on the table to try and steer towards that? Because you know, you still have about a year until all the summer festivals in Europe are back on track, and they're back every year. But you know, we like
where the whole thing's going.
Craig's bucket list. Like, how do we make that happen?
How do you make it happen? I don't know. Well,
I've got no idea.
Getting rid of COVID might be a good start. If we could eliminate that completely, and then after that, they might have some festivals again.
But that's one thing. Like no doubt the festivals are going to come back. There's no doubt about that. And this COVID thing eventually is going to be okay, because you're going to have your vaccines and people are going to get immune and blah blah blah. But the festival, how do you get to the festival? How do we get 46 Brigade and the geeks in there?
It sounds like we need to hire you as a manager, as a booking agent.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, I work for free. Hey, I'm like Sam.
I mean, look, the reality is, I mean, what we should do is sit down and have a very nutted out strategy in terms of how we're going to do that. But we haven't really done that, right? Because we're kind of really just been in this organic phase of just creating music and creating an album and creating videos, because this feels good and getting it out. And we're, you know, we've all been playing for a while. We've all got other things, you know. We've all got families, and you know, I've got a pretty full-on sort of day job as well. That's my focus during the days. So we don't have that sort of record company plan, but we are just sort of feeling it out as we go, and all we're trying to do is just get the music out there in the best form that we can. That's why we put a lot of time and effort into the recordings and the videos, so that what we're putting out there is actually good quality, and hopefully, that with a bit of push and from us, and we'll get a bit of momentum behind it, and the word will get out, and we can sort of start building on that momentum and talking to people and sort of going, then we're not just who are these guys? I've never heard of them. We can go, oh, I've heard of that and I've heard that song. That's good, and they'll listen.
Yep. Yeah, so in regards to day job, how far would you guys need to take it in order for this to sort of maybe become more than just something you do after hours?
I don't think that could actually really happen at the moment. You got families, and it's like
I don't have a job. I play drums for my.
You play drums for free for people. That's
not everyone. I do gigs, and so I don't have a day job. I've got an amazing
night job.
Yeah. Well, I got my wife's a corporate person, so. Yeah, so that always helps, having a partner that's got a good job and lets you kind of go on and do stuff. But I think I'm doing what I want to do, like what I've always wanted to do. I don't think I ever really wanted to be up on big stages and doing world tours and all that sort of stuff, because I'm not that personality, Like I always just wanted to play locally, and I wanted to own a studio. So I'm pretty much doing exactly what I wanted to do.
Oh wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
so maybe you can do the festivals.
Yeah.
Sam can play the rest.
And what? That'd be fine. Like, yeah, and it's and like what you said, it's actually really hard for me to go out and do. Like, if Craig said, "Hey guys, I've got 6 weeks booked in Europe," I'd be like, "Oh, I can't do it." Like I'd just be in that position where I wouldn't be able to do it.
I think I'd be able to do it anyway myself.
Yeah, I got a 5-year-old and a 18-month-old. That I'm stay-at-home dad. So. So it's, and I think if I was 26, I probably wouldn't even want to do it either, Like, to be totally honest, I was never that kind of guy. Like, I don't know, I just don't have that kind of drive in me to do that. Whereas I had a lot of drive to do other sort of stuff. So, yeah. And plus, I think I realized early on that I didn't practice enough to be that kind of guy, like a mate of mine, Andy Fissinen's the drummer on The Voice now, and I watched him kind of grow up and watched his drive to get to that point where he could be that guy, like where he can play absolutely anything on The Voice and be in front of the TV cameras and all that sort of stuff, So I knew pretty early on that I wasn't ever I didn't have that ability to practice that hard, So that's kind of off topic, but yeah, I think.
But is that required these days, you reckon?
Oh, yeah, it's a good point. Like, I think if you're going to go out and play festivals and stuff, you just do what you do. But
if you're in a band, like if you're playing your own stuff, as long as what you play suits the band, you don't need to sort of over complicate things.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, but I think I'd be just happy doing videos and doing local shows and seeing where that goes, and. I don't know, like, do you really need to go do festivals to kind of get your music out there anymore? Like, I don't know. I'm sure it's a huge rush playing in front of 30,000 people if you're a 26-year-old single dude. Like, I don't know. That's.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that rush. I'm pretty sure that rush would be the same no matter how old you are. I think.
It'd be a nice problem to try and solve at some level, but the reality is, I mean, we've all been doing this for long. In my 20s, yep, absolutely, that was what it was, full time, doing that sort of stuff. Now not, right? So I was sort of saying to Craig the other day, if we were playing a room in Perth with 200 people that consistently were coming along to see us, and they knew the songs and enjoyed the songs and they liked the band live, I'd be as happy as Larry. Yeah. And if there's other things bigger than that, then we'll kind of deal with that. But we all have our own limitations around that.
So maybe an answer to your question about how we're going to do festivals. I think we're back to the Ed Sheeran thing.
I'm quite happy.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm quite happy for Craig to play with my
Ed Sheeran,
Now we can do Zoom. especially with Zoom these days. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, so talk about me being your manager. I have to call Dave Grohl and tell him he got to find another support band for the upcoming tour. Then, so
oh, you had already booked that in. Jeez, why didn't you tell us?
Yeah, but like it'd be a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
Like to try at the moment, I'm kind of like,
there's annual leave.
Yeah. You don't get annual leave from the boss.
I'm sure, like. It would be a good thing to go and ask your boss, if you could get, your 4 weeks and maybe add another 1 or 2 because you got to go on tour with Foo Fighters or something. That'd be,
Sure,
that'd be a fun one.
Actually, come to think of it, I'll probably make a way of that. They'll probably get a way of that happening. So.
Yeah. No, awesome, man. Look, it was obviously it was just to try and see if there was anything because I remember Craig said he would love to go and play festivals, but look, there's local festivals too. There's stuff. What is the one called? No, we don't even have the one. We had this big festival down south a couple of years ago, but I don't think it's around anymore.
Let's look at
Southbound.
Southbound, yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
it's looking like that's the way it's going to be anyway. It's all just going to be WA bands here because we're not getting anybody in.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah,
so
yeah.
Well, it may even help.
That might be a good thing.
Yeah, it might be a really good thing actually. Come to think of it, I hadn't thought of it, but. Yeah, if there's no massive bands coming over from over east, and they're like, okay, well, we need to, and yeah, but now that I am thinking of it, we know Duncan and I know a pretty major concert promoter as well, so yeah. Anyway.
See, now it's happening. Now we start thinking. I like it. Well, there's a huge local music scene. I'm very fortunate. Pretty much every night next week, I'm talking to a bunch of local acts, which I'm really looking forward to sort of get my head around of some of the local talent. Would it be possible for you guys to maybe team up with a couple of other bands and maybe do like a full night of gigging?
Yeah. I'd like that. I think it would be a good thing to do. We've got to be a little bit selective because, I don't know, it's just not because of any other reason than I just feel that the music is a little bit commercial on the commercial side, and a lot of bands that, tend to be a little bit sort of left of center. So they might, I don't know, that's just my opinion. I might be wrong here, but they might not see us as part of the indie scene, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, again, I suppose at the end of the day, when people go to these evenings, like even if you are going to like a rock gig, there's still going to be people that are going to be playing, harder and softer than others. So I'm sure there would be bands that would sort of somehow fit in that category of playing, rock or pop rock. And again, at the end of the day or at the end of the night, I suppose it's all about sort of sharing each other's crowds,
Right.
so you do get to sort of play in front of the other bands as, friends and fans.
That's right. Networking is really important, I reckon, too. There's something we've got to try and get into a little bit more, I suppose, isn't it? You got contacts in WAM as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what we want to do is try and be, hopefully a little bit smarter than what we used to be maybe in our early 20s in terms of just particularly being a regional band and I was in a regional band in my 20s in Sydney, and your inclination is just to do gigs. Give me a gig, I'll go and do a gig, right? And if you're doing gigs in the original scene and they don't know your songs and then you're playing to nobody, it can really make it not very fun after a while, right? It can sort of help you lose that momentum. So we'd rather do less gigs, and we've all got things to work around. Like Sam is a full-time, he's a professional musician player, so we kind of got to work around those sorts of things. We'd rather do less gigs and try and make them really good. Make there's people there, and there's other acts out there, and make sure it's an event, right? And that's a really good night, rather than doing lots of gigs and potentially run the risk of having no one there, and then we all sort of get disgruntled with it. And
plus, doing these music videos and some of the little online performances, you get a lot of people, connecting with the band that way as well. So it can be just as rewarding in some ways,
Totally.
For sure. And that's again another, like talking about connecting, like doing more sort of stuff like this is actually a really good way for people to connect with you as individuals as well, and sort of get some insights to what's happening behind the music or behind the the guys on the music video. So and that might be another way for you to maybe reach out to other people, other podcasters, because usually people that are doing podcasts are really hungry to have people to talk to. Yeah. So maybe you should stop talking to me and start talking to someone else. Or also talk to someone else. Because again, look, there's there's people all over the world. Like honestly, there's and music is such an underrated commodity, because it's something that everybody uses every day, pretty much every day. So there'd be people all over the world that would want to talk to people like you and bands like you, and especially because I think your biggest edge, and this is my personal opinion, is the fact that your songs are so good. So they're so strong and they're so powerful and they're so well written that if you connect to someone, so imagine if you were talking to someone who had a podcast in, the UK or Germany or the States or Canada, any country. And they happen to have an audience that, again, are connected to someone. It could be someone on a radio station. It could be a promoter. It could be something like that. Then all of a sudden, just for spending an hour and a half one night talking to someone, then you hit an audience that you would never have known before. Yeah. And that way connects to people. Because I can tell you, people that are listening to podcasts, and I remember I had a chat to Sam about this when I came up to see his studio a couple of weeks ago, is the fact is, again, that usually people listen to this when they aren't necessarily interested in the music, but they need to listen to something on the way to work or commuting back to work. And if you're listening to someone without knowing their music, but you really resonate with what they have to say and you like the story, then you kind of have this other way in to actually appreciate the music because you know something behind the band. Yeah. And that's extremely powerful. Yeah, that's true. And I think that could be a really good way in. And there's so many avenues to get on podcasts around. We can have a chat about this after the show. I can show you a couple of websites to go into to actually apply to become guests. Okay. So yeah. A little hint.
Are we coming across okay?
Yeah.
Would the podcast sell a couple more albums, maybe? No, that would be.
I've never even thought of it in these sort of terms. I've never even been in a band before where I'm kind of even thinking about it. It's like you go and you might make an album, you do a couple of gigs or whatever, and it's like you just do it because that's what you do. But to be actually thinking about the next kind of, okay, well, where do we go with this product that we've got that we're all proud of and that we're all happy with? Like, it's all new to me because I've never really been in that sort of in an original kind of sense.
Yeah.
Like, or in a band kind of thing where you're not pushing your own YouTube channel or something like that. So it's all massive learning thing for me. I'm learning heaps of stuff. So,
but that's also sorry, you go.
Oh, it's all new to, like, I'm 42, and this is all like science fiction to me, how it's all done now, like. But going back, I said to Craig, why don't we put the video on Rage? Because like when I was a kid, it was like you get on Rage, that's it. You get on the radio, you get on Rage. It's like the coolest thing ever, right? Yeah. And I still want to get on Rage. That's all. That's like my whole goal is just to get a video on Rage. So if we did that, that'd be cool. That's all I've got to. Yeah. That's as far as I've got to in my thinking, but.
Put that on.
Discussing anything else.
You can put that on the band on the band bucket list as well. Yeah. But I suppose these days, really, or probably even always, like making the album is probably the easy bit. It's actually promoting it and getting it out there and sort of backing it up. That's real hard work.
That's the work.
Yeah, that is the work, because that's the sort of stuff that probably doesn't come that naturally to us, and particularly now because there's so many avenues, and there's. You can go and look at, videos or YouTubes, and you go, I'll go and understand this a little bit more, and you go, and then this is just rabbit warren of things you don't know that you're potentially going to go down. So yeah, you're absolutely right. What we love doing is the creation of the music and the writing of the songs and putting the performances together and listening to the mixes and doing the videos is fun as well, and on different levels. But the promotion sort of stuff is harder work. There's no doubt about that, and you can understand why musicians tend to just hand that over, right or wrong. They tend to hand all that stuff over, and often that's not necessarily the best decision they could make. But you can understand why you do that. Yeah.
It's one of those decisions that in many cases, this is again my personal opinion, if you want to take it to the next level, you probably have to. It's just about finding the person, same as finding, because eventually your manager is like a bandmate. It has to be someone that you can get along with, and most importantly, it has to be someone that you trust completely. Yeah. Someone who serves your interest and someone who has a vested interest. So if the band succeeds, he succeeds. Everybody succeeds. But it's so funny because again, like I've been speaking to quite a few different people and different bands from around the world, and actually a really interesting conversation I had. I think it was last week. I spoke to a guy from Israel, who was a singer-songwriter over there, and he said he reckons, which I actually agreed with. The more I thought about it after, he reckoned that 90% of your success comes from marketing.
Really.
And again, and he said, and that's again, same as we were talking before. Again, it is almost like science fiction if you aren't familiar with all the avenues, because again, YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram are just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much. It is literally a science, and that's why again there's people that do digital marketing, and there's people that are doing sort of promoting and marketing in general as a trade. But for you to do that as well as be fully delved into the music and be fully creative is too much to handle unless you are doing it 100% full time.
There's also the Aussie thing as well, where you don't want to tell people that you're good, and like you know there's real. I've got a real Aussie-ness about me where it's not when I'm not American. I don't put myself in people's faces.
Yeah, I'm the same.
You don't have to, but by no means.
I'd love to have someone that did that for me, and I guess that's why. Like a sportsman with their managers, they negotiate the contracts and stuff because they don't want to be seen as the bad guy or the greedy one or whatever, So it's definitely something.
But but again, even being an athlete, it's exactly the same thing. Like you got to devote all your time to get better and sharper and fitter and faster and stronger and whatever sort of sport you're doing. And you need someone else again to take on board your interest, and for them, and of course they would want to do that if they get a cut, because if you succeed, they succeed. Again, it's a whole sort of win-win. Yeah. So
the problem with that, Steph, is that, as you mentioned, the trust, right? There's
100%.
Trying to, again, we've all been around this, and I saw a lot of this. One of the reasons why in my 20s I went back to uni and then did some study, right? Because I kind of was observing, my heroes in Sydney growing up and what the industry was like, and it's a frustrating industry, for a lot of people you can't trust or haven't got your best interest in the heart, right? And so, I guess it comes down to the definition of what success is for you in this, right?
That's
and
right.
Exactly, spot on.
For me, the definition of success and what we're doing is I put on the album when I'm at home and listen to it because I really like listening to it, and it's right up my alley, right? And then if I go and get to do some gigs with a great bunch of dudes, and like I said, playing for a few people who know the songs are into it, I'm happy, right? That's great.
I agree with you, actually.
Once you sort of start, those bigger ambitions, they're great, right? Don't get me wrong. I would love to play this album in front of a festival, right? Once you start stepping into those sort of ambitions, it comes with complications, and so we just got to be careful, I guess, and
Yeah.
Where's that looper pedal?
Mate, dude, totally. Well, what are the Killers? Well, the Killers, they don't tour anymore. They just...
No, that's true. Yeah. Can we just do one? Can we just do please one?
Well, again, you're absolutely right. Like, obviously, like success is sort of quantifiable, and very individual. And that's again also another thing, that in many cases are important, that, you are sort of calibrated to be on the same page, in regards to what is important as a band. Because otherwise, same as any other relationship, is, if somebody wants kids and the other one doesn't, then fundamentally it's probably not going to work out. But look, it does sound that obviously sort of based on our conversation here that you guys are in a pretty good spot. I think the most important thing for any band is the fact that you can get along.
And this whole album project started out from a good place. It was like Craig's like, I have to do this album. It's not like I have to sell 100,000 records. It was like, I have to do this album because I have to get
a few things out. Yeah, that's right.
And I was like,
get the story out.
I'm totally down with that. Luckily, they were good songs. They weren't just all like a bunch of crap, where it's like, I have to get this music out, but it's a whole bunch of shit. It was like, I have to get this music out and it's actually good. And I think that you guys can help me get it to where I want it to be, and like, who wouldn't want to be involved in a project like that, like it's. But
if that was the case, then you wouldn't have played drums for free either. So.
Did I say that?
No, you didn't. It wasn't exactly free. It wasn't too much.
No, it wasn't free. Like I said, it was in between.
No, that's awesome.
But sorry, just one story. So Josh Freese, one of my favourite drummers, he's played with absolutely everyone, plays with Sting now. And I remember reading an article, like when you're talking about payment and all that sort of stuff, I remember reading an article where he played drums for someone and they said, oh, how much do you charge? And he's like, oh, what do you got in your pocket? Oh, I've got $20. He's like, yeah, that's what I'm charging, So it's like, well, who am I to go and stick my hand out and say, okay, well, I charge whatever X amount for a song, when the guy that plays with Sting will record, and obviously he goes and records with whoever else and makes lots of money and blah, blah, blah. But, like that kind of attitude, I think, is what's going to keep you working. And if I had said, oh, Craig, it's going to cost you $2,000 for a song and like that, I wouldn't have been a part of it, and I wouldn't be a part of anything that kind of came afterwards either, because I go, I don't get that guy, he's a dickhead, So I think if you're talking about what's your end game and what do you want to be, is like, I just don't want to be a dickhead. That's working with these guys as well. It's like you can sniff out an idiot straight away, and it's like, well, if you're going to invest yourself into a project, then you don't want to be stuck with a bunch of idiots, and that's what these guys exactly aren't, So
I mean, even the video the other night, it was nice. Everyone was playing the part, and at the end, apart from the camera getting stolen, when we got all that back, it was a really great experience. And so I personally would love to do more of these music videos. I really would. I think it'd be that might be another avenue that we can actually really enjoy. Making some more videos and stuff.
Well, it's something you're obviously good at, and you got the skills as well. Like you gotta put Sam to work when he's got the good gear. As long as he doesn't lose it, that's the important part. But again, I like what you said there, Sam, in regards to sort of like the payment, and I think that's also it's a really unique musician trait. It's the fact that you sort of do it for whatever feels right. And I think that might even also be the reason why, Craig, as you mentioned, the reason why Thomas charged whatever he charged for the album.
Well, maybe it was because when I actually asked, when I put the thing up on that soundbetter.com, the website, I specified that it was an album project, and like Sam said, there's not a lot of albums maybe getting done these days. It's more singles or EPs or whatever. And maybe he looked at that and he thought, you know what, this might be quite a good project to do, given the fact that there was a few more songs. It might have been more appealing to him than just doing a single. I don't know, but at the end of the day, what we got from Thomas, and what the money he paid us, just like I would, if I had the money, I would pay 3 times, 4 times, 10 times as much. Just
careful now.
It was just well, maybe not 10 times, but just to get that sort of camaraderie with a guy at the other end of the world who would always have something in your inbox the next day for you to have a listen to, and then it was a great experience. I'd recommend it to anyone. To be honest, I think
the most important part about it is it got finished, because it could have been so easy. There was a few times along the way where it could have got derailed, and it could have just been so easy to go, this is too hard, you know. But there was people like Thomas and people like Duncan and even like myself that just wanted to keep pushing along because it was worth it, you know. And I don't know about you. I start a lot of stuff and I don't finish a lot of stuff, but like even getting this over and then getting it on Spotify, getting the video done, talking to you, all of that, to me, it's like, well, shit, I finished something, you know. Like, and it's you can't. That's a bigger buzz than playing in front of 30,000 people. To me, anyway, you know. Like that's kind of and you know, being able to help someone achieve, like someone reach the finish line, you know, like that obviously had a vision a year and a half ago. It's more than anything. It's more than money or anything like that. So yeah, that's good.
Well, again, I think that's another really common musician trait, is the fact that you can start a lot of things, but it's difficult to finish. I'm super guilty of that as myself as well, you know. Yeah. So how did you actually overcome that during the whole? Because you mentioned that you said it might have gotten completely derailed. Okay, can you mention a situation or two that where things looked a bit grim?
It was actually, I don't know if you're thinking about the same point, but there was a point about it went on for about 2 months where I just kind of stopped doing anything on it. I don't know, I had couldn't be bothered type attitude. Was that what you're sort of thinking about?
I think there was.
But then we came back and... Yeah,
I could kind of sense it, that he'd lost a bit of momentum, I think. It wasn't even enthusiasm. It was just like kind of like... And I'm thinking of it from Craig's point of view, because it's easy. Like, he sends a thing and I'll do 3 different drum takes and I'll send it back, you know. Like, it's kind of... For me, looking in at what Craig was kind of going through to get the thing finished, it was like... I could see that it was getting hard, and so... I suppose being a sideman or being someone that people want to work with, you kind of got to be a bit of a cheerleader as well, you know, and you got to go, well, it's worth doing, you know, like keep at it. If it is worth doing, if it's not worth doing, then I probably wouldn't have said anything. I would have said, oh, okay, cool, thanks for the work, you know. And so I'm sure Duncan was doing the same thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like anything, you know. It just sounds like a song, right? But what, you know, a lot of people don't realise is that in there, like every track's probably what Craig would send Thomas to mix. It might have been 80 different stems, you know, 80 different tracks of different instruments of different bits and pieces going on, right? And so to create all those sort of things, you know, particularly, you know, Craig was doing all of that, right? And so when you're in the middle of that and, you know, you've got 10 or 11 songs to do, it becomes overwhelming, right? And when it goes on for a long time, right? And then you send off, you know, got to get all that stuff done. Then you send it off to be mixed. And then when you get the first mix back, you go, oh, that's not quite what I had in my head, right? And you go, oh, I don't know. And then how do I fix this? And there was definitely a few of those occasions where I go, oh, that's not really what it was. But to Thomas's credit, he, you know, I mean, and Craig he had all the conversations with him, and what he has told us is that there was no point that Thomas, and it went on for a lot longer than what Thomas had ever signed up for. You know, let's be honest. It took probably 6 months or more, right? And at not any point did he complain.
Not once. Yeah.
And we might send him back something about 5 times, right? And go, no, not happy with that, or can you do this, or let's redo the hi-hat and let's send that back, or, you know, whatever. And not once did he complain, but we had to kind of keep pushing. And then once we actually, what kept us driving, kept us moving, was that even though we had those moments, we learned that we had those moments. You have those moments, and then, but we would get to the end and we'd go, that's awesome, right? Done. Put it aside. Let's move on to the next one. So when that happened again, we knew, you know, we could get through it. We just had to sort of work our way through it.
But so I was going to say, just the one thing that I loved about the deal that Thomas offered, the best thing he said was, because most of these people were saying, okay, I'll mix your songs for X amount of dollars and you can have 2 revisions. So if you don't like the first one, I'll do one more mix, and then I'll do one more mix, and then that's it, you know. Thomas said, you can have as many mixes as you want, you know. And I was like, are you serious?
Which in hindsight.
There's one.
I think he's changed that policy.
Yeah. He's changed the policy. But there was one song, I mean, in fact, it's the single at the moment, that had 11 revisions on it, you know, before we were happy with that mix. So,
but so.
But you know what? Sorry, I hate to say this because I remember on the last album, you guys used to always give me the, oh yeah, here's the gatekeeper, because I used to always open the gates because you guys were, that's a good enough mix. Let's no, guy, no, I don't like that, this hi hat or something. And so you guys, I was the gatekeeper or something. The new gatekeeper is this guy. You know? He was always, I'm not quite, it's just not quite right yet. And I'm going, but Duncan, don't you reckon? Don't like the bass. Can you just get Thomas to up? And 99% of the time he was right. You know, he was. So I've got to say,
and I think to Craig's credit as well as bringing in, that could be the hardest thing, I reckon. If I was Craig, I would be like, okay, I'm going to get this mixed, and I'm not going to invite two other opinions in, because you know how messy that could be. You know, like it could be an absolute nightmare. You got one person going, this doesn't sound good, and the other one's going, well, I reckon it does, and you know what kind of conflict that could potentially create. But I think luckily Craig kind of had enough trust in Duncan and I to trust what we were saying, you know, and
oh, definitely.
I think I'm like, yeah, that's great. I'm like, I'd get everything back. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Oh, maybe the snare drum's too loud. And that was about it. But yeah, it was great seeing Duncan's notes coming back where he's like very specific about a lot of things. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, because I'm not like that, you know. I wouldn't be able to go into that kind of detail. And every time it was like everything he suggested was,
that's right.
It really made a difference, you know. It wasn't nitpicking bullshit that wouldn't have made any difference, you know. It actually made a big difference.
It did make a difference. It made a huge difference, particularly on the harmonies. Duncan was, every time a mix came back, he'd be like, it's okay, but we need the harmonies louder. Why can't we have a bit, you know? Yeah. And every time we did that, the song sounded better. So it was like,
But I suppose so. It was so when you say that Sorry had 11 revisions. So those revisions, was that mainly just like level adjustment, or was it like a full taking stuff apart? Or
it was mainly level adjustments. The one thing that I personally didn't like about the first couple of mixes that came back was I wanted that song to sound a bit more like a Killers type song, and so I really wanted that kind of thrashy hi-hat thing happening in it. And so I think we ended up sending an overdub just of the hi-hat.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You know, to tell them to, in the chorus, just let's push the chorus more with the hi-hat, just being a bit more thrashy. Because,
I remember doing
like that, you know.
I remember doing that a bit, coming out here and getting two 20-inch ride cymbals and putting them on a hi-hat stand and just going shh like that. And I'm like, send that over to him. You know, because Craig is like, I think it needs something, and so and again, that's so great having this here. You know, I just race out while one of my kids was asleep and do it and send it off, and he's like, can you get it to me because it's 9 o'clock in Sweden and he goes to bed at 9:30. If we send it to him now, we'll have the mix tomorrow. And there was a few times where we actually got, and I like working to those kind of deadlines. It's like, quick, we need it now, or else you're not going to get a mix tomorrow. You know, so. It was cool, and it's good to have that sort of the ability, the facility to come and do it, you know, rather than going, oh shit, I've got to go book a studio and I've got to go
for sure.
hi-hats, and you know. So
the funny thing was that we have this group chat, and in the morning, because it was usually always, you know, 5:30 or something, I'd get woken up with an alarm, and I'd listen to the mix that he'd sent the night before from Sweden. And these guys would know if it was a shit mix from my very first comment on the first thing in the morning. Yeah. You don't want to hear this shit, lads, you know. But then I realized if you do the negative comment straight away, it puts you on a downer, you know. Whereas, so then we started picking up on more of the positive things about the mix, and it worked out pretty good in the end.
Yeah, without even saying it, this is the stuff I do like about it, you know.
That's
rather
right.
than this is
Mind you, with Sorry, because that was one of the it was probably the last mix, right? So the very first mix that he sent was actually pretty good, right? It was actually, I think he'd sort of from the very, like, Free Me was the first song he mixed, and the very first mix of that, you know, always sort of bugged me a bit, and the first few of the mixes, it took him a while, but I think by Sorry, the first mix that came back was actually pretty good in terms of the band sounded, you know, the rhythm section sounded pretty good, and the guitars and everything. I guess there was a bit of work on more the nuanced stuff, like the hi-hats and stuff. The mid-late bit in there, there's a bit of effects going on, and we sort of tried a few different things in there, and we thought we really need to get some effects on the vocal just to break it up. And that particular song we spent a bit more time on some of that, that colour to sort of add to the song.
Mm.
Cool.
And there were some things that worked that we tried that didn't work, and we kind of go, okay, let's unwind that, and so it took a few guys to sort of get that right.
And if
right, okay,
for instance, on the vocal, I said, first of all, I've been doing a bit of research, and there's a plug-in that you can get that can make you sound like the Brandon Flowers killer sort of vocal. Could you chuck that on it and just see what it sounds like? And he did. It's called the Green something or whatever it was, and he put that plug-in on it and sent the mix back. And I realised Brandon's a much better singer than me. It just sounded great on Brandon, but it sounded pretty shit. And then eventually, we got the sound that we wanted. So yeah, it was a bit of give and take for that one.
But getting back, like, you can imagine like 25, 30 years ago where you'd have an A&R man there, and you'd have and they're like, oh, I can't hear a single in this one, guys. I'm going to send it to so-and-so to remix it and blah, blah, blah. And so, like, not being encumbered by any of that sort of bullshit and just being able to go, okay, well, we're the three guys that played on it, so we're the ones that are going to make the final decision. Or, it's Craig's song, so he makes the final decision. So, and it's awesome having that freedom to kind of either fall on your face or to come up with something good without any of that outside influence or anything like that. So what Duncan was saying, you got to be careful about how big you want to get, because if it invites that kind of stuff in, like where you lose control of that. So,
but that's a
good process. Like, it was an amazing process. Like having someone over the other side of the world, like mix your songs and kind of be on the same wavelength as you 90% of the time. And I think it would have actually been harder sitting next to someone mixing them, because then you got the tendency to go, oh, can you change that, and just doing stuff just because. But having something where it's sent over and you're not going to be able to talk to him until another 12 hours or whatever, I think it was actually an advantage.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, now that we're looking back on it, I'm sure at the time we were like, oh shit, I wish he wasn't in Sweden, but
But no, it definitely has its advantages. You have people that can work while you're asleep.
Yeah, that's right.
So you make a bit more out of the hours in the day.
Yeah.
Look, sort of before we round everything off, in regards to the album, I'm curious sort of to see, because I remember when I spoke to Craig last time, you had sold, was it a handful of copies or something?
Yeah.
How is everything going with actually getting the album sort of put out there? Is that still something, like, because you still have your Bandcamp page?
Yeah. Well, this is a topic that in fact, you might know the answer to this, because I've tried to search a lot of pages. Can you release an album on Spotify and then go back and release singles from it? I don't think you can. I think so. On Spotify, we just have to release a single, another single. And Duncan was saying maybe the idea is to do 3 or 4 singles on Spotify and then just put the album up there. Maybe that's
So have you not got the album on Spotify yet?
No, we're just doing singles.
Well, see, the issue is, and it does seem odd, right? But it seems the way Spotify works is that they want you to release singles. So to get the music out there, obviously it would be great to get on some Spotify playlists and those sorts of things, right? But to put yourself forward for those playlists, they will only accept unreleased tracks. That's right. If you release the album and then you go, okay, one of those is going to be the single, though it's no longer eligible for the playlists.
Right.
So it seems the way to go, and we think there's probably at least 5 singles on this album, right? So it's probably going to be, as we're sort of starting to realise, it's probably going to be a case of where we release maybe 4 singles, right? And then on the 5th single we'll release the album, right? And therefore we'll be able to release those singles to the playlist and try and build a bit of momentum that way, which makes a bit of sense when you sort of see, some of the releases that come out. And to be honest with you, it actually bugs me. Like when I get an album and someone's going, I'm going to release an album, they release an album, you get it and you've heard half the songs, it actually annoys me a bit, but that I think I understand why that happens. I think like Spacey Jonah just released a local band, just released an album, great album. But I'd heard half the album, when it got released, and I suspect that's the reason why, because they sort of had to sort of release the singles before releasing the whole album.
Yeah.
But I suppose it doesn't mean that people can't hear the rest of the songs. It just means they can't hear them on Spotify. Like, because again,
right. I mean, you can still go to Bandcamp and buy it or stream it there,
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
But not too many people, I guess, in the music buying public wouldn't be as aware of Bandcamp as they are of Spotify or iTunes or Apple Music or whatever.
Well, I suppose that again also comes down to how you decide to push it, because again, as you mentioned earlier, like you are the directors, you are the marketing managers, you are the musicians, you are like you call the shots. So if you want to try and push the band page, the Bandcamp page, then you just add that into the end of the music videos. You push it more on your social media and stuff, and that should hopefully direct traffic to that and get you some more streams. But I suppose at the end of the day, you want to direct them to Spotify.
Well, maybe I think you get a bigger audience that way, and
It's the network effect, right? And that's why Spotify and Facebook and Amazon. That's why these things work, because people go there because everyone else is there, right? It's just this network effect. And unfortunately, Bandcamp, in my experience, the only people that know about Bandcamp are musicians who have put their album on there, right? No one else tends to really know that much about it, right? So it's a great thing. It's a great service what they do, and for independent artists, and they get paid properly. When someone buys an album, it's fantastic. Obviously, there's a lot of debate around that with the streaming services, but I guess the potential upside of that is the potential audience, and that's why it's important to try and get on those playlists, because that really opens that avenue up, right? And so it's, I guess, we could make a small amount of money on Bandcamp by getting more of a smaller amount of sales, or potentially earn the same amount by getting a lot more streams and earning a very much more percentage of that. But I guess for us, I think we'd probably prefer at this point is getting the message out there to a more broader audience, and so that's kind of why everyone's sort of focused on the platforms, I suppose, at the moment, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah, okay.
But that could also be it could also be a matter of probably knowing your target audience, and then again you can utilize a lot of the different online platforms to target that specific audience. Because I'm thinking out loud here. I'm guessing people that will sort of be listening to your album is probably people sort of around our age too, because they like the whole album has a concept that a lot of adults can relate to. And they're probably also the audience that would happily pay $15 to $20 to support the band, rather than, if you are 15 years old and you rather want to spend your money on booze and Ed Sheeran t-shirts, then they probably aren't going to go in and just donate, $15 to this random band that they haven't really heard of. But people that are listening to your story or hearing your songs and actually getting into the songs and the lyrics would totally appreciate it. Especially, like Sam said, if he had a really harsh big brother and who actually gives him some constructive feedback. I hope he's bought the album, by the way. But
we owe him. I think we owe him like more than all this work he did for the video.
I think I gave him a free copy of it.
There you go.
Yeah. I do that, but I mean that's the thing. I just don't think it's a nice concept. And I always try it if I see a local band, and I always try and buy the CD. If I go to the markets and I see someone playing and I like the stuff, I'll buy the CD. It's a great concept, but the reality is most don't. And the world is. That's right. The world is using the platforms, and there's a reason why, because they're easy. And it's I want to listen to something, there it is, and download. And so you can fight that, or you can try and hopefully try and use it to your advantage at some point. So that's what we're trying to do.
Oh, look, I agree 100%. And I'm not saying that the people shouldn't just stream it, because you're 100% right. If you don't have a big audience, like you would rather have a massive audience that don't pay for it than you would have a very small audience that do, because eventually when you then release the next album, that same audience, hopefully, by rings in the water, it's going to spread out. Yeah. Which again leads me on to probably my last question for tonight before we round it off is, what's the next stage? When are we going to have some new music coming up in the future? after this?
We were talking about maybe doing a couple of singles or an EP or something. Just Duncan writes a bit of music too, and we could maybe even write together more the next time rather than just this bunch of songs that fitted this theme for an album. So maybe, I don't know, it all comes down to the time, but I think the time's going to be taken up for the rest of this year anyway. Maybe just with getting videos together and putting out new singles. So I don't know. Maybe. What do you reckon?
Well, I said it to my wife the other day. I said, because she's like, oh, it's a lot of work doing all of this, and she knows I love it. Like, she knows that I don't do stuff unless I love it. And I said, well, it's a nice thing to have that, my kids might be able to watch it in 15 years' time and go, oh, that's what my dad used to do or still does or whatever, So it's like, I don't mind putting all of this work into it. And so I'm not really thinking about, oh, what's next, because I'm still, for me anyway, I'm still like, well, let's get the most out of this album because we've already put in all of that work and now this is the fun kind of thing, Like we were talking about it the other night, like
for sure,
videos and stuff is a different side of creativity to writing the songs, because like we're trying to think up concepts of what are we going to do next and where are we going to film it and all that sort of stuff. And so for me, it's worth putting in that effort because sounds like a wanky sort of term, but it's like your legacy, It's like you want to leave behind a body of work that you can be proud of, I suppose, rather than just a whole bunch of shit. So that's how I see it. I'm not super in a rush to get on to the next thing because I think this thing's still got some wheels, like not in a commercial sense, but in a creative kind of sense where we can do some cool stuff with it. Like even if it means doing an acoustic version of like what we were working on in there before, it's still that to me is better than going off and working on a whole bunch of new stuff because that's kind of a little bit like work at the moment.
Absolutely. That was like, it was also, I probably didn't mean it as in like, are you going to do a new album tomorrow or something? It was more like, obviously like in time, because you're 100% right. Like you need to give this album a proper go, and doing videos is a brilliant way of doing it. And doing these, I noticed Craig did a piano playthrough of Pictures of Better Days as well.
Like enjoyed, and that's like we've got to do more of that stuff because I think, like you said, the audience that we're talking about, they actually appreciate that kind of thing. I think, like
100%.
And before you might be able to go on Hey It's Saturday and do a different version of your song or whatever, but now that's kind of out. That's gone. So it's like, well, okay, well let's do a YouTube video and show people a different side of that song or whatever, So
do a bunch of lyric videos is an easy way as well.
Yeah. But I think we are proud of this album, and I absolutely do believe it. I think there's at least 5 songs. I think there's 5 songs that could definitely be singles, or at least there's songs that we want to highlight. And so kind of that's going to be the next thing, to make sure we highlight those. And then we're really keen to do some live shows. We are live musicians. We're musicians, and we know how to play live. And this is a great little band. Like, even the 3 of us is a great little band. So we're really keen to get out and convey these songs live, because it'll be fun and it'll be energetic, and it'll be a great show. There's no doubt about that. But absolutely, part of the original reason that Craig and I got together was to sort of work on some songs together, and this is something that we needed to do and really happy to do. But once we sort of get down that track, then we will want to work on some other stuff together. I've got some stuff that is very suited to us that I really want us to work on together. But I think what we've learnt through this is maybe it won't be another album. Maybe it will be after this album. Maybe it will be some new singles or a new EP or something. Perhaps not another album. That's probably too.
It's a lot of work. I think it's too much work. Yeah, it's too much work. I think with the album.
There'll be something to sort of drip feed into Spotify there.
Totally. That seems to be the way that everything's going. So it's like, well, why fight it? That's right.
Well, at least you got this album now, so obviously you just gotta work on it as much as you can.
Yeah,
that's it.
Awesome. Look, just before we finish off here, we're going to finish off on Sorry. Can you just quickly tell me the sort of story behind the actual video? Because you've got a couple. It's obviously a performance video. You guys are playing in there, but you also have these takes with this couple that are in the video. How did that come up?
I guess it was just really the whole song is about the whole song's about a separation and trying to fix a relationship that's probably not going the way that you want it to go, and so you end up going to see the marriage counselor and you do everything you can to fix it, and at the end of the day it doesn't work. So that's kind of so it tied in with it, like having a couple in a marriage counseling session, and just playing through it. It just kind of worked, so we went with it.
Cool.
That's quite that was the theme. So but there is one thing in that. Now I asked the question and I'm going to ask it again. There's a little thing in the clip that doesn't quite stack up, so if you really got an eagle eye,
is that an Easter egg here?
There's a free stubby holder and a t-shirt.
I'll give away a free fatback t-shirt to anyone.
There we go.
Fatback
t-shirt. Yeah. But there's a little thing that one of these things that you sometimes in a movie and that guy was the continuity. That guy was looking that way and now he's not. That kind of thing. Yeah. So there is one little thing, if anyone...
And let me just add, I did fix up, there was another one that I did fix up, but I missed this one. So.
That's right. So there's actually two things, but if you can name one of them, you will get a free 46 Brigade stubby holder and a fatback t-shirt. Have it.
Yeah. And if you get it you get two stubby holders. Yeah.
or you have to go to Bandcamp and buy the album. Yeah.
And buy the album, yeah.
So just before I put the video on, can you just do a shout out here? Because obviously all this here will go on the podcast. So people that will be listening back to this, where should they go if they want to find out more about 46 Brigade? Can you just tell us the social pages they should visit? Yeah,
there's a few pages now. We've got the website, which we've probably got to update a little bit, which is 46brigade.com.
Yep.
If you want to go to the Bandcamp page, it's 46brigade.bandcamp.com. And you can stream the album, you can buy it there. Facebook page is facebook.com 46 Brigade, I think, is that right? Yeah. Just search 46 Brigade and there's probably about 4 or 5 links that will come up that you'll be able to hear the stuff.
And I've got everything sort of scrolling down here anyway.
It would be really nice if anyone would start to try and maybe subscribe to our YouTube channel. Because we've got a lot of videos there that haven't got many views, and there's a whole lot of stuff that people might be interested in having a look at. So that would be good. If you go to YouTube,
in and subscribe.
Go subscribe. That'd be nice.
And share it maybe. Now you're at it.
So good. People have been great that way.
Fantastic. Well, let's play Sorry and make sure that people can listen to that and hopefully share that.
Okay, mate.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. It was an absolute pleasure. I loved hearing about it.
Thanks for having us, Steph.
Cheers, man.
Good stories, and I'm really glad you got your camera back.
Yeah, you're not as glad as I am. Yeah, that was my piano money. That was my piano money. I was like, oh shit, I can't buy a piano now, but so now I did buy pianos. So.
Yeah. And now you can hopefully record some awesome new videos in the future.
So, yes.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll play Sorry.
Thanks, man.
Cheers, man.
Thanks so much for tuning in or listening along to the show. If you like the show, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review and subscribe to my social channels. It doesn't cost you anything, but it greatly helps me to build my networks and my chances of getting sponsors to keep this show running. If you want to take it to the next level, please head over to patreon.com/Stephen Helhammer and become a patron by joining the exclusive community there. You can start from as little as $3 per month. And for just a little extra, you get access to some fantastic features, outtakes, behind the scenes stuff, and much, much more. That's less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. And that way you can help me build better content. I can devote more time to find awesome guests and just generally just keep everything flowing. If you want to be on the show or subscribe to my mailing list, send an email to steven@helhammer.com, and that is HELhammer.com. That way I can start sending you exclusive invites, random stuff, and messages that, who knows, you might enjoy. So that's it. Have a rocking day ahead, guys, and I will see you on the live stream or in your headphones very soon. Take it easy.